The Oakland Raiders traded for their own distraction. They traded for their own destruction. This was a bad move from the start, and they should definitely regret this. What's going on, guys? What's going on, 27 squad? Welcome back to another video. We're going to be talking about Antonio Brown today. As you guys know, he's made headlines in the past couple of days, whether it's with the Frostbite issue, his appearance on Hard Knocks, or this new helmet issue. And it's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. I'm going to dissect this. I'm going to talk about this and kind of give you guys my thoughts on Antonio Brown. Now, first off, I think from the get-go, I said this when he was traded to the Oakland Raiders. I said this was a bad move, both for the Oakland Raiders and for Antonio Brown and for the NFL. It's such a mind-boggling, terrible move. This is the type of move that a team would make, you know, for a 31-year-old wide receiver who's still being paid like he's still the best. He's still one of the best wide receivers in the league, but he's in his, early 30s, and he's starting to, he's going to be starting to decline a little bit. This is the type of move that teams make when they're in win-now mode. But if you guys look at the Oakland Raiders draft, if you guys look at what they did in free agency beside Antonio Brown, it signals to them rebuilding, and not even that they drafted well. They drafted players that are role players. Jonathan Abram, to me, shouldn't have been drafted in the first round. Neither has Josh Jacobs. You look at the acquiring of Colton Miller, the first round pick last year. I mean, they're rebuilding, but they're not even rebuilding in the right ways. They're drafting really, really awkwardly. It's really bad, and surrounding all those developmental players, to say the least. Colton Miller, developmental player. Maurice Hurst, developmental player. Yes, he has a very high upside. He's proving that, but he was a developmental player coming into the NFL draft. Arden Key, developmental player. You look at a bunch of guys on this roster, all developmental players. Brendan Parker, their right tackle last year. And the fact that you trade for Antonio Brown, now yes, you got a third round pick and a fifth round pick in exchange for him. You traded a third and fifth rounder. That's not a too hefty price to ask, but you're paying a lot in Antonio Brown. You're giving him a lot of money, top tier money. Why are you doing this? It doesn't make any sense. You're seeing what transpired with these Pittsburgh Steelers. He quit on the Steelers late into the season because of his own troubles with Ben Roethlisberger, and he couldn't keep his personal issues aside. And on top of that, the whole locker room situation, where he recorded Mike Tomlin's speech in the locker room, which should have been private. Mike Tomlin came out and said Greg Jennings, no, it was Colin Cowherd. I don't believe everything Cowherd says, but he said he had a connection that told Mike Tomlin told him that, Mike Tomlin was hiding stuff from the media about Antonio Brown. Will Cain said he was saying that Antonio Brown was injured when Antonio Brown was actually leaving, not injured, and he actually left the Pittsburgh Steelers because of their own issues. He was a cancer to that locker room, that Pittsburgh Steelers locker room. Now, granted, it's not all his fault. Ben Roethlisberger is a diva as well as Antonio Brown is. I'm not saying they have equal blame, but and Ben Roethlisberger has some blame there. And then the whole Le'Veon Bell situation, it was just a crapshoot over there in Pittsburgh. So what brings the John Gruden, who in my opinion is absolutely soft. He is soft. What the hell happened to John Gruden? What happened to the hard John Gruden that would get in your face and things like that? I've watched John Gruden with the Raiders, back then, and John Gruden with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback camps that he would have for all the quarterback prospects that was on ESPN. That he was being hard on the quarterbacks. When he was in the booth at Monday Night Football, he would talk very hard on these players and things like that. This is not the John Gruden we're seeing in Hard Knocks. This is not the John Gruden we're seeing defending Antonio Brown, saying he backs Antonio Brown. He's not getting in his face whatsoever. You look at Antonio Brown with Jonathan Abram in Hard Knocks, and he was just letting Jonathan Abram run all over him like he was some kind of, millennial father. And one of these fathers, like, oh, whatever you say, son, whatever you're comfortable with, or, try not to piss off his students, try not to piss off his sons. You know what I'm saying? So he's extremely soft in that matter, but that's besides the point. Antonio Brown is facing no backlash from this whatsoever. He's allowed to walk on the organization. They traded for him. They're paying a lot of money for him. They're expecting him to change this locker room and change this roster around, because God knows there's nobody around that is going to help the Oakland Raiders win games but Antonio Brown. He is looked at as the best player to help them win from the wide receiver position. You guys know I'm not big on the wide receiver position. It's not really a position that's going to help you win games. You look at all the great wide receivers that, you know, were loudmouths. I love Randy Moss, but he never won one, if I'm not mistaken, and T.O. as well. T.O., you know, was a loudmouth wide receiver, never won a Super Bowl. He was a cancer to almost every team he was with, and that seems like where Antonio Brown is headed. Now let's talk about the helmet issue. Now I can understand Antonio Brown. I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. I could understand Antonio Brown's frustration with this. You know, he's been playing with that same helmet for 10 years. It's going to be an adjustment. It's going to be a big shift, and it could potentially impact the way he plays the game. Greg Jennings said this on The Herd on FS1 with Colin Cowherd. He said that when he was in the NFL, he too had to change helmets, and it was very uncomfortable with the change of helmet, because the helmet that he liked was a Riddle. I don't know the exact name of it, but this Antonio Brown's is like a Shoot Air Advantage, something like that model. And with Greg Jennings, he said, you know, his was had the perfect field of vision, had the perfect size and things like that. It just fit him perfectly. Now there was some safety aspects to it that, you know, wasn't very perfect. That he said he would get hit in the nose a lot and things like that. And you know, he understood the change for you know, the NFL. You know, when a car brings out a new car, they also change the safety, they also change the seatbelts, they also change the airbag mechanisms, they also change all of that when they, you know, are moving into the future. You know, you don't have a new car with 1966 seatbelts in it. So that's a great point that Greg Jennings made. And you know, you move on to the NFL. There are 2,000 other players who also have to abide by this rule. Now, I get not all 2,000 players have to change their helmets. Granted, I said that. I just said that. No, not all 2,000 players need to change their helmets, but I'm sure a decent amount of players need to change their helmets. Why has it been a couple of days and nobody, I mean 0 players in the NFL came out to back Antonio Brown on this? You're telling me Antonio Brown's the only one that has to change his helmet? Absolutely not. There are other players out there that needs to change their helmet as well. Tom Brady came out and said, you know, the great Tom Brady, he said, you know, it sucks to change a helmet. I've had to do it a couple of times, and it sucks, but you have to do it. It's just the way you play the game, man. And the fact that Antonio Brown filed grievance for this is ridiculous, and threatened to stay out the whole league for this is ridiculous. You know, and obviously, you know, the arbitrator ruled against Antonio Brown, and you know, he will not. I'm assuming he's not going to file a appeal on this. And he came out with a statement, said he on Instagram, and said that he is looking forward to playing with his teammates. So that whole thing was just a farce. He wasn't going to sit out the entire league because of a freaking helmet issue. Even he's not stupid enough to do that. But he'll be back very soon once he's back from that frostbite injury. But my thing is, Antonio Brown is going to be more trouble for the Oakland Raiders than he is going to be a positive thing for the Oakland Raiders. He's going to cause more trouble than success for the Oakland Raiders, and it's really mind-boggling how the Oakland Raiders would make this move and trade for Antonio Brown when they don't have the pieces around for him. You can't expect a wide receiver to take you to the playoffs and take you to the promised land, because it's never been done before. Look at all the great wide receivers in the NFL and NFL's past. They haven't won Super Bowls. Derek Carr can potentially win a Super Bowl, but he's not of that caliber to just, you know, use Antonio Brown to make it to the Super Bowl and nothing else. When starting Arden Key at defensive end, you know, you don't have the other pieces around you to say that the wide receiver is going to carry you to the promised land. You don't have that around you. You do not have that luxury yet. The Oakland Raiders traded for their own distraction. They traded for their own destruction. This was a bad move from the start, and they should definitely regret this. Thank you for watching KB Sports Talk on the Kid Blue RB27 channel. If you guys liked the video, make sure you guys hit that like button below. Subscribe if you guys are new for all NFL news and Giants news alike. I'm Kid Blue, and I'll see you guys in the next video.